Hey, it's Natalie with the Think Yourself Academy. Stress series, part 2. In part 1, we have seen who invented stress, what are the causes of it, how does that work in our brain, and we talked about serotonin. So make sure you go back to part 1 if you have not seen it yet. So part 2 today, we're going to be talking about 5 strategies to reduce stress. The very first one is we're going to talk about work-life balance. And here's the strategy. Forget about it. It is a myth to believe that we could have exactly the same amount of work than we have the amount of life. Because work is part of life. It's not either or. We should stop seeing work as being a cruel task that we have to do. And when we work, it's not fun and it's hard and it has to be terrible. And life is the fun part. Work-life balance, it doesn't work. Because think about it. We spend most of our time at work. So we have to make sure that work is fun, that we are enjoying work, and work is part of our life. So find something that you like doing, and if the task that you're doing or the job that you're doing or the business you work for or if you're an entrepreneur and you work for yourself and you're not enjoying yourself, then there's something wrong there. We have to find a way to find the good. And if what is good about your job is the fact that you receive a salary for it, that's enough to make you like your job. It is part of your life. And unfortunately, there's a lot of overload, there's a lot of chronic stress and depression that is caused. And this is, of course, it's just a funny cartoon beside me. And if you're listening to the podcast, I'll describe the cartoon for you. You see this guy that's about to jump off a building, and the boss is through the window and says, "All right, I will okay a personal day." This is a fun cartoon, but in reality, it's not fun at all, because it is the case. It is a thing where people are so swamped and so overwhelmed at work that they can't cope anymore, and it leads to depression, or it leads to medical leave because they can't deal with it anymore. Their work is not fun anymore. They're not enjoying themselves. And it is a reality, and it happens quite a bit, especially in the world that we are like right now, where there's shortage of staff everywhere. And it's not easy because people that stay are just running behind, and the tasks are accumulating and accumulating. So we need to figure out a way to forget about work-life balance. Stop thinking of work as a cruel thing. So this is the first step. Work is part of your life. Second strategy, expect it. It is going to happen, right? I have another cartoon beside me that I'll describe. You see this meeting, and then somehow the leader of the meeting is telling the rest of the group, "Don't worry about it. By the end of next week, these fads like social media, automobiles, and making fire will all be over." But that's kind of a joke, because it's not going to be over. It's there to stay, and changes are there to stay. It will always be evolving, and there will always be something on our plate. The next cartoon that's kind of fun here, you see a matador, in a corrida that works with bulls. You see this guy, and then the bull is there in the ring, and then you have this caption that says, "I've been feeling a lot of work-related stress." Well, of course, your job is to go in front of a bull for a living. So what kind of work do you have? And if your personality style would require for you to work in a less stressful environment, there are potentially less stressful job for you that you may be happier with, maybe with less responsibility if it's not something that you want to do. So think about that, because it is not going to change. Here's the next cartoon that's pretty funny. You see the leader of the meeting with a whole bunch of people sitting around the table, and the leader has that super long nose like Pinocchio when he lies, and then the caption says, "I absolutely guarantee that your workloads will not increase." like of course our workloads are going to increase. And even myself right now, as I'm recording this, I am off for 2 months, and I would be lying saying that, oh, I'm not going to work at all and I'm not going to do anything. I would be lying to myself. One, because I love what I do, and of course I'm going to be working a little bit during my 2 months off, and also because I'm running a business. So it is it is the reality. Things will continue to add on, and workload is real. The other cartoon that I have here is pretty funny also. You see this guy with this huge backpack, and then the coworker that says, "Can I just add one more project to your workload?" And then the guy has already so much on his shoulder. But that's the reality. So that's why we need to expect it. And if you know that it's going to happen and there will always be a big workload, it's always easier to go in knowing that it's just part of the reality, and then we don't get so stressed about it because we expect it. Strategy number 3, try to postpone your stress. What I'm saying is, very often we get overwhelmed by something because we feel like it needs to be dealt with right away on the spot. And there's techniques and strategies to defer it and say, let me think about it, instead of having to answer right away. Try to gain some time. Or you're in the middle of a task right now, you say, okay, I don't have time to stress about this right now because I'm doing something really important, like maybe I'm sleeping in the middle of the night, and it's important that I'm refreshed tomorrow morning when I get up because there will be more stress coming my way. So that means that right now I'm busy sleeping, or I'm busy doing this task, or I'm in a meeting with clients. So I will plan to be stressed on Tuesday. I'll think about that. I'll put in my schedule some time to fix this and then to think about it. And that's when I will postpone my stress to. Strategy number 4, learn to say no. Because sometimes it is not true that people are giving us all these tasks. We choose what to do. The cartoon I have beside me now, see this woman at the grocery that she chats with another lady. She's in the express lane, 9 items or less. And she's saying, I wish my life had 9 items or less, because wouldn't that be nice? Our logical mind can only handle 5 to 9 items at a time. And there's very often, most of the times, we have to deal with a lot more than that. And that's why we get overwhelmed, because we live at a logical level. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that we need to tap into the unconscious mind, where the big potential is, where we can handle 2.3 million pieces of information at once. Because living at a logical level where we can only handle max 9 things at a time is not a good place to live, because we're constantly overwhelmed. So for that reason, by learning to say no, what can you say yes to and what can you say no to? Because the more you say no, that means the more things that are important to you, you will say yes to. And then the last strategy is, how do you surround yourself? Who are the people around you? And what are you doing in your life in the moments that you choose? And the last cartoon I have in this part 2 of the stress series is the dog that's handing the newspaper to their master, saying, I'll only give you the paper if you promise not to let the news upset you. Well, if you're constantly reading bad news, if you're constantly around negative people or stressful people and putting yourself in those stressful situations, more likely, if you are constantly bathing into a stressful environment, more likely a day or another, it will affect you. So hopefully you like the 5 strategies. In part 1, we saw who invented stress, what are the causes, how does that work in the brain. We just saw 5 strategies to reduce stress. And then next week, we're getting into 22 powerful questions to reduce stress on the spot. So while it's happening, I'm giving you 22 different questions that you can ask yourself in order to reduce stress. I will see you there.